Alright, YouTube, some of y'all know me, some of y'all don't. My name's TJ Morris, Bear Independent. TJ Morris, Bear Independent. I guess I'm kind of like the Tim Ferriss of preparedness, meaning that I've had a lot of unique life experiences, done a lot of things, and I know a lot of experts in their field. And what I try and do is bring you the no BS about what you could be doing, should be doing to conduct yourselves accordingly, to not die when it all hits the fan. I operate on a lot of different levels. I operate on a lot of levels that y'all don't see. And I am making it my business in 2019 to make you guys more aware of what happens on the other side of this camera. In doing so, part of that has been this mission to Florida that we just performed for the Reverend Gilbert. The Reverend Gilbert is operating in Panama City, Florida, 4 months after Hurricane Michael hit and just devastated 5 counties. The federal government has been useless. The project, the storm, is less than 10% remediated after 4 months, and they are pulling all funding within the next 6 weeks. It's a disaster. It's a huge problem. And the Reverend is there actually affecting change on target. He's done 17 hurricanes and 6 tornadoes, I believe. He's legit. And part of what he does is work with groups like me and other people to show them the reality of the situation on the ground. Not what you think it's going to be, but what it is. Excellent training. And so I wanted to share with you lessons learned, relearned, or confirmed through this mission experience down in Florida. Now right now in Oklahoma, where I live, it's cold, it's rainy, it's less than ideal. I'm tired, I have a headache, but I want to get this out to you while it's still here. I have some notes that I've taken, and I'm going to work from the notes, which used to be a rarity, but more and more is becoming an everyday thing. Alright, Florida mission, lessons learned. First and foremost, shelter. This was a major issue. You know, maybe not foremost. Let's go first. Such. You guys know Such, Sensible Prepper, Such 00. Such says 3 seconds without hope, 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, 3 hours without shelter, so forth, so on. And the 3 seconds without hope always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I say that as a firm believer in the Most High and a broken human being who tries to do his best to be a servant to the Creator and then to my fellow man. But that phrase, 3 seconds without hope, always just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Got my hackles up, right? Not anymore. Not after this. Because speaking of shelter, there's people living underneath blue tarps. That's all they have, is blue tarps. Cheap blue tarps. They're hopeful. You ask them, how are you doing? We're good. We're alive. Roger that. So your attitude needs to be squared away, right? You need to know who made you and why. 3 seconds without hope. Yeah. Shelter. There were tarps everywhere. On structures. I don't think I saw one structure in Panama City that I can recall that didn't have part or whole of its roof covered with a tarp. Sometimes 2 or 3 different layers of tarps. So if you don't have tarps, you might want to stock tarps for a long-term SHTF event. Now, I've made lots of tarp shelters. I carry a tarp as part of my bug out kit for tarp shelters. I find them to be field expedient as compared to a tent, but I'm versed in the making of tarp shelters. I'm going to be buying more tarps just to have around. There were tarps everywhere, whether it was the only thing in between families, including toddlers and infants and the elements, or part of a building, part tarp structure, or protecting a compromised roof or whatever. There were tarps everywhere. I already had tarps in my systems. I'll be getting more tarps. Water. Right? 3 days without water. Not just what are you going to drink, because you need drinking water. You need a way to purify drinking water. You need all the ways to purify drinking water, right? I like water tablets. I like the ability to make fire and metal containers for boiling water in. I like filters, filtration, whatever you can get. Water storage. My line 1, 2, and 3 has 7 quarts of water storage on it in lines 1, 2, and 3. That's 1 3/4 gallons of water on my person. I'm a big fan of water. It's not just drinking water, although you need that. Where are you going to discharge your gray water, your black water? Where does that go? Where's your drinking water come from? Are there cows upstream from you? Might be something to think about. So yeah. How are you collecting water? It's raining here right now. You know, you can fold a tarp like this and catch water, catch the runoff. You can. In a lot of places, they were. Water. Food. Food is freedom. Food is freedom. We had 32 people with bear shirts on. Where is it? With this logo on that crushed me, humbled me to see. We had 32 people that showed up to volunteer their time to assist. Our total crew was 38 people, I think, between local liaisons and community outreach. It's insane. Evelyn, Mrs. the Rev, doesn't know how to cook less than 100 meals at a time. We ate a lot of food. We ate a lot of food. And food is freedom. The more of your own food you have, the less dependent you are on other people. Okay? An army marches on its what? Its stomach. We went through a lot of food. A lot of food. I don't know pounds wise, but I'd say probably 100 pounds a day to feed our crew. Let me reiterate that. 100 pounds a day to feed our crew. Now, yeah, there were almost 40 of us. But we'll get to that in a minute, because I'm a huge proponent of tribe and team and community, because it took almost 40 of us just to accomplish what we accomplished, and it was a drop in the bucket of what was needed to get done. And that required 100 pounds of food a day. Food is power. You can hire people on. You can exert influence over people. You can control people based upon whether or not they are fed if you have food. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal. We had lots of weaponry. This was an extremely well-protected mission. I mean, extremely well. We could have deployed to Afghanistan instead of Panama City and been fine. 0 rounds fired. Several 100 pounds of food consumed. Now, I already tell you guys, stock food. Store it to the rafters. And when you think you're full, double it. Then double it again. Then double it again. Have food. We brought 400 pounds of food with us that were donated by somebody who I'm not even close with, but who wanted to support the mission. And there was literal tons of food waiting to be dispersed when we got there. And I am unashamed to tell you that on my way back, I stopped in Nowhere, Mississippi, and filled the back end of that rental minivan full of food from Walmart. And I have food, I'm looking at it right now. I have lots of buckets to fill right now. I already have lots of buckets. I'm gonna keep filling buckets to the day that I die. Food is power. Air. 3 minutes without air, right? What Such likes to say. The air quality sucked. There was fire everywhere. There was so much vegetative debris that it was just impossible to chip all of it. So much construction and demolition, what they call C&D. The fire departments were so overwhelmed. The dumps, the landfills are so overwhelmed. Burn it. Just burn it. Get it away from the buildings and burn it. There are fires everywhere, which will come to fire here in a minute. But the air quality was terrible. Fire, dust, debris, sand, and wind off of the Gulf. Horrendous. People were building fires to stay warm. Now, I know you think Florida, but yeah, it gets chilly there too. People were building fires to stay warm because it's all they had, because the power was out and the gas lines were ruptured and there was nothing else. So there were lots of fires built with people huddled around them just to stay warm. And if when you think of all you have are the clothes on your back, and they're probably wet and filthy, and the only thing in between you and the outside world is a thin blue tarp, fire is really your friend now. Burning of trash as well, just to deal with it, like I said. To purify water. I saw a couple instances of that where fire had clearly been used to purify water. And for light, again, no electricity. Just for light at night. I mean, we're talking Stone Age technology here. So your ability to make fire. How redundant should your fire kit be? All the redundant. Matches, you know, storm matches, Bic lighter, ferro rod, tea lights, friction fire making capabilities, tinder bricks, whatever. Biohazards, body fluids. That's a major issue, and that leads into chemicals. You have C&D, construction and demolition, right? Lots of sharps. There was one site where it was quite clear that people had been getting busy. There were used condoms all over the place. That's not good. Body fluid. Biohazards. Have gloves, and not just, you know, work gloves, but nitrile gloves, latex gloves, you know, medical style gloves. Trash everywhere, which is a sanitation issue. We had 2 bathrooms. Getting into sanitation, we had 2 bathrooms for 32 people. Many a time, I know, I'll speak for myself, and I'm pretty sure many of the other men as well, it was much easier to find a corner somewhere and just go pee than to try and use the 2 bathrooms at home base. Home base, which was a half-gutted church. A structure. Okay, we were fortunate to have a structure. So for anything that required a stand-up, go pee on a fence, go pee on a tree, go something, right? There was 1 shower and 2 toilets. Showers were limited to 2 minutes apiece. I took 0 showers during the deployment, 2 field expedient bathing experiences, aka wet wipes. just to keep things as squared away as possible. Because it just wasn't possible to get into the shower. Every time I wanted to get in the shower, there was already somebody in it and somebody else waiting to get in it. Things to consider. And we had a building with electricity and running water in it. Okay? Hand washing. This is something I think that a lot of people don't think about. But your hands are the #1 way that you interface with your world. And if your world has gone to stuff, guess what you're covered in? Stuff. You're going to prep food, work on somebody medically, hold your kids, right? Just hand washing. I mean, major sanitation consideration. I think most people don't think about it. And yes, I prefer hand washing to hand sanitizers, but if hand sanitizers are all you can get, go with it. Also good for starting fires because they're like 70% alcohol by volume. But hand washing. The ability to clean and disinfect yourself, the surfaces around you, your pots and pans and cooking utensils. Major consideration as well. And an absolute way to drain your water supply. We figure on a minimum of 3 gallons per person per day. 1 for sanitation, 1 for drinking, 1 for cleaning. I like 5 more than 3. Then medical concerns. By the hand of the Father, we had 0 medical incidents. 0, which is great. But every single vehicle that left base camp had communications capabilities, primary and alternate, and some of them had primary alternate contingency, as well as squared away med kits. By squared away, I mean, you know, combat capable med kits. And people who knew how to use them, both the commo and the medical. So if you don't know how to do that, get training, get this stuff, get trained in it. And at the very least, get this stuff first and then get the training, because you may happen upon somebody who knows how to use the things. But don't just get the things and check that box and think you're good. You have to know how to do these things. Says me. And if you're uninterested in what I have to say, well, guess what? We're 18 minutes deep in this video. Maybe you need to find another video. And that's not my ego talking. That's just a fact. Like, I'm just over the idea that if I put a guy in a gas mask with an AR-15 in silhouette standing in front of a burning city, I could probably get 250,000 hits on this video, but I don't care about any of that. We do not fearmonger and doomer porn around here. We don't do it. I refuse to do it. I want to edify and encourage you and give you as much information as I possibly can so that you can actually take lessons, learn, equip yourself, and then go learn your own lessons. Population density. I have preached this from day one. It is a major issue. Major issue. People are the best thing and the worst thing about life. And when people are behaving badly and they're all around you, guess what? That's a problem. Panama City is not a huge city. It is a city. And even in the outlying areas, you know, the residential areas away from the city, still a major consideration. There was looting, there was stealing, small-scale riots, there was just people competing for limited resources, which is why population density is a major consideration of mine, especially in the city. If you're anywhere near a lot of concrete, there's probably too many people around you. It's a resources game. If you take a large amount of population that's dependent on just-in-time logistics practices, make all that go away, eliminate all the services, and then make them compete over finite resources, somebody's becoming a statistic sooner or later, and that puts you in a position where you have to do things that you will likely regret rather than just not be there in the first place. So yet again, population density plays. Manpower. Oh, I'm gonna go it alone, T. Yep. for a day or two, I did not see one person operating by themselves. Not one. If you're not in a group, you ought to be. Because guess what? After the event, people start coalescing into groups. Because groups are power. Groups are security. Better to do it now while you can control as much of the input-output as possible than to do it then. The lone wolf prepper ideology. I rebuke it, I refute it, and I will continue to do until the day that I die. It is untenable and unrealistic, says me. I don't care how good you are. You might be the master of everything. Go twist your ankle. You're dead. You're dead. To say nothing of the fact that I needed twice in 2 days a moment to just go and pray with a brother, or just talk, or just get something out here. Hard to do that when you're by yourself. Don't take for granted the people that you have now, and foster those relationships, build them, create context, fall in love with people, date them, do hard things together, accomplish things together. It is not good that man would be alone. Manpower, work, lots of work. Cooking. Do I need to remind you that we cooked 100 pounds of food a day? That didn't just happen. Security, 2-man teams every 2 hours, 8 to 10 hours a night. Do the math. That's 8 to 10 people just on security. And if it was a larger operation, or a larger, I mean, we're talking a half an acre that we were securing. Okay, a half an acre. Had it been larger than that, or logistically more challenging, because this was easy. This was see and be seen. Which, by the way, the police officers were more interested in what we were doing protecting our stuff than the people, the tweakers that were trying to rob it. That was fun. Although I think they were just curious to see people standing up for themselves and taking positive action. They left us alone once they figured out that we were there and we meant business. So, security. If security was more of a logistical nightmare than it was, we probably would have needed 2 or 3 times as many people to secure the site. And we still had to post security during the day as well. See and be seen. Serving, interfacing with the people around us. That in of itself is a tactical exercise. We were on bounding overwatch while serving in the community, which also gets into comma, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Money versus manpower. This was a situation where if you had $1,000 to pay to somebody for a day to help, you would have been SOL. There's nobody to pay. Money would have done you no good in this case. Another lesson we learned: the government and the media is useless. Useless. They don't care. The FEMA camps that everybody's so worried about going to were pristine. They had new men with new boots, in new jeans, with new safety vests, with new hard hats on, standing on brand new pavement, leaning on brand new pallets of brand new food and water, sitting next to brand new trailers, looking at brand new heavy equipment, sitting inside brand new pipe and chain link fence, doing nothing. Nothing. Unoccupied. Wasn't a soul being served, while all around them chaos and need raged. I'm not surprised. But if you had any thought that the government is coming to help you, go to Panama City. Watch episode 4, the end of episode 4 of our mission to Panama City and my interview with Diane. Government is a blunt force instrument. They are slow and inept and impersonal. They're incapable of caring. It's not the way that they're built. Bureaucracy can't care. And you can't meet personal need with bureaucracy. And the media could care less. I am not even going to waste another breath about how useless the media is. That being said, I would love it if y'all would take it into your own hands as I have, the disbursement of this information. Like, comment, subscribe, share, spread this everywhere. Not for me, but for the hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless and displaced and out of work with no food, no shelter, no water, no electricity, no clothes, no nothing. In the United States of America, Panama City, Florida, and surrounding areas. GoFundMe.com/Gilbert's Op Fund, GILBERTSOPFUND, Gilbert's Op Fund. Fulfillment. We are social creatures. We are made for action. We don't get filled up by doing this. We get filled up by going out there and doing that. You don't know what it is to be blessed until you are a blessing to somebody else. Get off your couch. Get out of your cubicle. Get away from your miserable life and go find out just how blessed you are. Go see what a miserable life looks like, and then realize with a moment of brilliant clarity, these people aren't miserable. They're full of hope. And that they are serving you as much or more as you are serving them. We are built to serve. We do a disservice to ourselves and others when we don't. And so if you don't go to Panama City, that's cool. Go across the street. Go to your local church, food bank, soup kitchen, outreach, prison ministry, softball team, don't care. Find somewhere to plug in and get away from your own needs and wants and help somebody else with their needs and wants. One of the biggest questions I get is, how do I identify what my purpose in life is? Where do I get a sense of purpose from? And the answer is, a lot of times, quit trying to look inward for that and start looking outward. Go do. And the thing that lights you up so much that you can't possibly do it. If I put a gun against your head and said, if you don't stop, I'll kill you, and you said, kill me anyway, I'm going. That's your thing. That's your sense of purpose. But sitting on your couch holding a Mountain Dew and eating Cheetos, thinking about it, ain't getting it done. CAMO. PACE, Primary Alternate Contingency Emergency. I've just discussed in a previous video our CAMO plan here. Cell phone, Kenwood, Baofeng, whatever the hell else. Got a pop up on my phone. We used a primary, alternate, and contingency regularly, constantly. As you can see in episode 3, about the middle of episode 3, you will see the CAMO plan in action. The mission, episode 3. And it's not faked, we're not putting it on, but I just happened to be filming and all of a sudden there was lots of CAMO traffic. So you see it in action. Have a CAMO plan. Go use it, go do it. And to that end, we'll talk about this more, but Night Runners, which is the Reverend Gilbert, this is an excellent training opportunity for your group. Excellent training opportunity. He's been doing this for a long while. He himself is hardcore into preparedness. He's bugged out 5 times in the last 15 months due to storms. How many times have you bugged out? This man knows chaos. He lives in it with a smile on his face while being of service to the Most High. Good guy to know. Good guy to learn from. The cell networks were all down initially when the storm hit for weeks, as well as FirstNet, which is the first responder network, which was owned by Sprint but got commandeered by AT&T because Sprint could not make it work. So the first responders were without commo for 14-ish days. The first responders were without commo. Nobody could talk to each other. Obviously, the grid was down, so you need a decentralized way at the very least to charge batteries for your radios. Forget trying to hook into a repeater because they were non-existent. They were gone. Things to think about. Military comms were down. Things had to be rerouted. Military bases were gone, are gone. The Marines and the Navy have no place to operate from. The Army National Guard's barely getting by. And Tyndall Air Force Base, we were there serving meals to. The military ain't coming for you, brother. They barely got their own stuff covered. In fact, we heard from somebody on the inside when we reached out to them looking for support. They said, we have to assume that our elements are in support of themselves at this point, but we don't know because we can't get a hold of them. This is 4 months after the event. Four months. Which brings us to shelter in place versus bug out. Where I live, shelter in place is my go-to. I recommend that you live in such a place that shelter in place is your go-to. But in that neck of the woods, when a storm like that comes, go. Bug out. 50% of the population that lives in that area does not currently live there because they either left before the storm hit or they were relocated immediately after because there's no place for them to live. Which brings shelter in place to the forefront of my mind. These homes are destroyed. We are building a house for Mr. Dennis, an 85-year-old disabled veteran. GoFundMe.com/welcome home Mr. Dennis. Welcome home Mr. Dennis. DENNIS. Welcome home Mr. Dennis. Because it's the conviction of my heart that we do it. Because FEMA won't. FEMA let that man for 4 months live in a building that had 2 walls and half a roof and called it shelter for an 85-year-old disabled Army veteran. Disgusting. Disgusting. You need to know when to bug out. You need to know what your bug out benchmarks are. I get that question constantly, both from coaching clients, prosperity clients, patrons, YouTube comments, constantly. When should I bug out? If you're thinking that maybe I should bug out, it's probably a good idea to go. Says me. Lastly, this is an ongoing mission. You can support the Reverend Night Runners Mobile Crisis Response Team. They have a Facebook page. There's a lot of pictures from our mission up there. If you want to see what we did, you can go there. You can check out here on YouTube. There's 5 episodes here and 3 live streams. 4 live. There's about 10 pieces of content, probably including this one, relative to the last 100 or so hours of my life doing this work, learning and relearning these lessons. here on YouTube at Bear Independent. You can go to bearindependent.com and go to the missions tab across the top and get details there about upcoming projects that we're doing. If you're interested in donations, we'll talk about that in a minute. Again, you can go to gofundme.com/GilbertsOpFund, GILBERTSOPFUND, Gilbert's Op Fund, and gofundme.com/Gilbert's Op Fund, and that will help support the Rev. And the Rev is doing the Father's work for sure. He told me that this past weekend was going to be his last weekend of strike teams, of going out into the community, and that he was going to transfer over to resupply missions for other existing NGOs in the area after this weekend. But because of the interest and response that just we have generated, home base where we were set up, forward operating base St. Andrew's Church of God, Panama City, Florida, is now open for business for strike teams for every weekend through the end of the year. Got another 9.5 months to do this. This is an ongoing mission. The Reverend will have ongoing expenses, and I would ask kindly that you would consider prayerfully supporting him. Also, that you would consider prayerfully building a home for Mr. Dennis. Every single dime of that money will go towards his house. We are already less than 24 hours after arriving home again, coordinating our next trip there, and all of the tradesmen and materials and labor and permitting that will be required to build this man a home, because FEMA's had 4 months to get it done, and they said you can go live in the corner of your destroyed house. Unacceptable. And I fully intend to use that as a rallying cry. Everybody rally to my position. Go live on Facebook, share on YouTube, send it to Twitter, Instagram stories, I don't care. Send it to your local news affiliates, I don't care. Get the word out that the people of Panama City need our help. And shame on me if I don't go. I will let the conviction of your heart be the conviction of your heart, but shame on me if I don't go. Now, if you want to donate material goods such as food, baby items, clothing, sanitation, construction materials, etc., you can email me at ntxmag@gmail, November Tango X-Ray Mike Alpha Golf @gmail.com. The subject is Brenda. In the subject line, put Brenda, BRENDEDA, not DEA. She's not Bren Drug Enforcement Agency. Brenda, BRENDA. Subject line, Brenda. And I will forward that to Brenda, who has stepped way up and said, hey, let me help coordinate this, because I was overwhelmed before we went to Florida the first time. And now, between the wife and kids, a homestead, 3 businesses, sideways iPhone shenanigans here on YouTube and Patreon, and these missions that we're doing, I'm swamped. To that end, I have literal hundreds of unanswered emails. If you sent me an email in the last week and haven't got a response, please know that I'm trying. I'll get back to you. I'm trying. I would really encourage you, for your prepper group, or if you just want bug out practice, or if you want, team building for your company, your tribe, your mag, your softball team, your executive management at your company, your mag, your militia, your sports, I don't care, your group of people, your church, your youth group, your ministry, your everything. You need to go see the Reverend. This is practical, tactical, real lessons learned, and it's a gut check. You can email me, and I'll forward it to him. NTXMag, November Tango X-Ray Mike Alpha Golf at Gmail. Put it in the subject, lessons learned, and I'll forward you to the Reverend so that you can be part of the recovery in Panama City. And our hierarchy of needs there, as I've explained to my crew, is number one, we serve the Most High. Number two, we serve our fellow man. And number three, this is a training exercise. And you'll be amazed what you learn. And I just wanted to share this with you. No frills, no stupid thumbnail of a guy in a gas mask with an AR and a city on fire. None of that bull crap. Real lessons learned and relearned from real life in real SHTF. No conjecture, no opinion, no thought, actuality. And I would encourage you, because we are built for action and we are social creatures, to get out of your comfort zone and step up. Step up in Panama City, Florida, or step up in your own community right at home. I don't care what you do, but do something. It is not good that man should be alone. And you will be amazed at the opportunities for people to blow you away with their sincerity, their capability, and their depth of character, and their compassion, and their brilliance, if you just go and do it. Again, my name is TJ Morris, and this is Bear Independent. Share this with the world. The world needs to know. Panama City's on fire, and nobody cares. Shalom.